Welcome to another edition of Issues with JIDE. Here we'll talk about actions and inactions of those who shape our political and national landscape and how these impact us positively or otherwise. I'm Ibrahim Shita. Today on the show, Labour mobilizes for protest over nationwide hunger. In the course of the program, we take your questions, but first, subscribe to our YouTube channel and drop your questions in the comment section. It's also important to mention that we can only read comments with human names and the ones based on the subject matter. I have joining me via Zoom, the my stream, Babajide Kolade-Otitoju. Good to see you again, BK.
Good to do this with you, Ibrahim Shita, and good evening to our esteemed viewers.
Right, let's get right into it. The Nigeria Labour Congress is threatening a two-day nationwide strike for 27th and 28th of February to protest against the economic hardship being experienced in the country. Recall that the NLC and TVC said they are concerned about the non-implementation of the 16-point agreement reached with the federal government on October the 2nd last year. What's your reading of this latest development, BKO?
All over the world, labor constitutes a very important pressure group, and their duty is to fight for the welfare of their members, whether they are paying members or they are not paying members. Labor's duty extends even beyond their members. Labor all over the world ensures that his voice is heard when issues around the welfare of the citizenry comes up or come up. The labor movement in Nigeria will not be an exception. Before Ajero, we had Pa Sumono, who fought for minimum wage in the early 80s. We had Pascal Bafiao, who was the labor leader during the Babangida years, right up to the time when he stood down as military president. We had Oshomole, who rose through the ranks as PRO of Arewa Textile in Kaduna, became vice president of Labour, and eventually became president of the Nigerian Labour Congress. He fought for the welfare of not just workers, but the generality of the Nigerian people during the Olusegun Obasanjo regime, when fuel prices were increased. What we can describe at that time as partial removal of fuel subsidy or incremental removal of fuel subsidy. Ajero and his colleague Osifo, who heads the Trade Union Congress, have been doing their best to try to get the government to do something about the pains inflicted by the removal of subsidy. We can't deny that our people are in pains. Even if you deny, in your heart you know that people are going through pain. People will send messages to your inbox on Facebook and other social media platforms asking you for money. People who had never asked you for money for more than 15 years. This time around, people are asking for money. That is the extent of the pain that Nigerians are going through, and the pain is nationwide. We can't pretend that our people are going through a lot. Prices of goods and services are quadrupled in our country. There seems to be no way of reining down prices, bringing down prices, or reining in prices, bringing down prices. There seems to be no method, no strategy in place. Somebody can wake up and decide to sell cement, a bag of cement, at the rate of 10,000 naira a bag, or even more than that. Nobody gets in the way. These things are causing untold pain. I hear there is a meeting being called by the minister so that they can talk to Dangote and Abdul Samad Isakarabiu, who is the chairman of Buhari, another key cement maker in our country. But we've got to find a way to rein in prices. Some states are now stopping people from moving food across the border, because rather than sell food to our people here, middlemen and big-time farmers are shipping food across the border, because the CFA, a currency that used to be mocked, has suddenly become stronger than the Nigerian currency. So it is of tremendous advantage for farmers, especially in the north, to move produce across the border. I've talked about this a number of times, and I read the story emanating from the customs that people are moving food across the border using illegal routes, because they know that customs and immigration officials will be on the official border posts and roads connecting Nigeria to neighboring countries. This is where we are. People can't feed as much as they would normally want to. They can't feed their children. Children are starving. Even their parents are starving. This is the true situation in Nigeria. Some of us may feel comfortable, but it does not take away the truth that the ordinary Nigerians have seen their disposable income shrink, and their earnings in a country where even some governors can't pay minimum wage of a mere 30,000, or you have refused to pay minimum wage of a mere 30,000. Something must give. Labour has been trying to force the hand of the federal government, and at this stage, let us look at some of the demands that Labour made back then, which were deposited with the court, prompting Labour to stop the strike at that time. Wage award of 35,000 only to all federal government workers beginning from September, till when a new minimum wage is signed into law. The evidence on ground is that this wage award has not been paid every month. Now the Minister of Labour is saying, don't worry, don't go on strike. We will resume payment of this wage award. If you made a promise that you will pay this wage award every month, then it makes sense to pay it. Not paying it, going against the promise that you made, amounts to provoking labor. This is the way I see it. A minimum wage committee to be inaugurated within 1 month from the date of agreement. That minimum wage committee was not inaugurated within 1 month of the date of agreement. It was just inaugurated some days back. Tax incentive for private sector and the general public. I'm not sure about the implementation of this agreement, and I've not been able to get sufficient proof that indeed that has been done. Outstanding wages of tertiary education workers in federal education institutions to be referred to Ministry of Labour. I have no idea where they are on that, but I have my doubt that it's been fully implemented. Increase distribution of fertilizer to farmers across the country. This has not been fully implemented, if at all. FG to urge states to get governor, FG to urge states through the Nigerian Governors Forum to implement wage awards to workers in states as well as local government workers. Some states are doing this, others have bluntly refused. I wouldn't know why. Maybe the federal government didn't do enough to convince these governors to make these wage awards. I mean, these are governors who have bluntly even refused to do something to mitigate the pains that people are going through. They got money to distribute palliative grains. A good number of them have bluntly refused to do that. Maybe they've used the money for something else and they have no shame. They are going around behaving like nothing has happened. Because they have immunity, they believe that no one can do anything about them. And the federal government appears to be powerless to get these governors to honor their obligation. FG to pay 15 million to vulnerable households from October 2023. To pay 25,000 to 15 million vulnerable households from October 2023. Again, this has not been fully implemented. I saw the former minister flag off something like a conditional cash transfer in Kogi State. That's the minister who is on suspension. So, sorry, the suspended Minister of Humanitarian Affairs flagged off something similar to conditional cash transfer. But in terms of honoring the agreement to pay 25,000 to 15 million vulnerable households across our country from October 2023, nothing concrete has been done. There is a need on the part of the federal government to show greater seriousness. This is a serious business of state. We don't want Nigeria to be pushed into violence, the kind of violence that we saw during the EndSARS. That's not what we want to see. The minimum the government can do is to honor its agreement with labor. Nigerians are angry, and any little trigger will push us to unbearable, violent convulsions. That is not what we want to see. We want the government to respond to labor's concerns, ease the pains of our people. There are still other demands, but these are the key ones that I want to talk about. There are still other demands. The point that I'm making is you cannot blame labor for attempting to protest. Many workers can't afford 3 square meals anymore. They belong to labor. Yes, you could argue that labor accounts for just 5% of the Nigerian population. But that 5% is significant in terms of the influence that their leaders wield. So this is where we are. We've got to move to improve security so that we can have increased agri production. We've been deceiving ourselves about agri production for years. When Egypt decided to discourage farmers from planting wheat, because wheat requires a lot of water. I mean, from planting rice, because rice requires a lot of water. I encourage them to move into wheat production as well as other farm produce. Nigeria began to praise itself. Nigerian leaders began to celebrate during the last administration that we had become the biggest rice producer on the continent. The only reason we overtook Egypt was because Egypt told farmers to de-emphasize planting of rice in favor of wheat and others because of the acute water shortage. But in our country, we have water in abundance. The climate is friendlier. We have arable land in ample quantities. But lazy governors are not doing their best to energize agri-production. And the promise that government made that is going to cultivate 50,000 hectares of land has still not kicked off. After several months. So we've got to be more serious about agri-production. If China can feed itself, if India, which is now the most populated country in the world, can feed itself, Nigeria should be ashamed that it cannot feed itself. And the reasons are obvious. Government at all levels are not doing enough. We need to protect our people better so that they can have access to their farms and won't have their farms taken over by bandits. We've been too lenient against bandits and terrorists. We've been too lenient. Now we can see the negative impact they have on food production.
That's right.
So government must do its best to address these concerns and not wait until Labour calls Nigerians out for a nationwide protest. Because if Labour tries to do that, chances are that Labour will get tremendous support from a people who are very angry, who are hungry. Even some of us who are not in government have been blamed as if we are the ones who caused the problem, as if we are the ones who removed subsidy.
Yeah.
So you can imagine that at this time, the people are angry.
Yeah.
It won't be difficult for them to come out and protest. So the government has to move quickly.
That's right.
And when the president sets up committee, let me just get this word in. When the president sets up committees, he has to put people there who will do the job. He keeps putting the same people in some of the critical committees, and some people are notorious for not even delivering. So the president has to find the right people, and the right people are not necessarily the people around him. You get my point, Ibrahim?
That's right. That's right.
Yes, the right people are not necessarily going to be found amongst the people who work for him. Nigeria is a nation of an estimated 200 million people. So we can find good Nigerians who will get the job done, not necessarily some of the people around the president, because some of them are already ill-reputed for their incompetence.
That's correct. That's correct. Nelson Adufe says, from all indications, strike action under Joe Ajaero presiding over NLC has become a cashing out, a quick means of getting money from the federal government. Ajaero has abused the meaning of NLC strike over and over again. Northern Star says, thank you, BKO, for mentioning cement. What factors of production has changed so much within the past few days to warrant the asinine hike in cement prices? Cement produced from local limestone. Taurid Sunny says, protest is fully approved by law for Labour, but can they guarantee a peaceful protest? Labour should put more pressure on state governors to show empathy. And Marvin Odita says, where are the CNG buses Tinubu promised? Where is the 35,000 naira Tinubu promised federal civil servants. When the president does not lead by example, other governors will act the same way. I want you to answer this question alongside my question, second question I will pose to you. Prices of goods are soaring, but the unfortunate thing is that the qualities of these goods don't remain the same. There is more confusion due to the crisis, faced within with the harsh or caused with the harsh economic policies and its impacts. What low-hanging fruits can the federal government pluck to address these issues in no distant time?
I think that we have to find a way, and this is where the governors come in. A lot of them don't even know their jobs. People are arbitrarily hiking food prices, hurting the ordinary Nigerian. Governors have to find a way to stop this. I remember Governor Zulum in those days when even filling stations would claim that they didn't have any stock of fuel. He will go to those filling stations and open their underground tanks. And once he discovers that they indeed had fuel, but they were hoarding it, it will be auctioned to Keke Napep operators and other people who need them. We have to find a way to stop the one-time hiking of food prices and price of other commodities. What is the reason, for example, why Dangote cement or whatever cement will be this expensive at this time? This is pure economic sabotage and the height of wickedness. There's no reason for it. They should tell us what they have imported within this short time when the Naira slid badly that prompted the price to go up. They are just exploiting the fact that we have no strategy in place to keep everyone in check. The attempt to profiteer at the slightest opportunity is something that some of these big companies in Nigeria are notorious for, and we must find a way to call them to order. I hope that the meeting called by the minister would address that. There's no reason in the world for cement to climb to 9,000 naira a bag at this time. It's crazy. And the people behind this are absolute enemies of our country and its people. They are agents of darkness, agents of pain. They are enablers of pain on our people. There's no reason for that. And these are companies that the Nigerian government continues to patronize for their construction projects. So that has to be addressed. And then those hoarding food, they also need to be addressed. The issue has to be addressed. I'm not surprised that the governor of Niger said truckloads of food cannot come out of Niger anymore, because you can't come and buy up food being produced in the state, buy up everything, and leave the people who want to buy food in the state with nothing. After all, the protest began from Niger, which is a big food production center in our country. So I also agree with Odita that the federal government should lead by example. If you promise 35,000 naira wage award to our people, to workers, there's no reason why you should pay just 1 month and then stop paying. That's not setting the right example for the governors. The governors who are not even ready to pay in the first place. So these issues have to be addressed. But some of the measures that we need to take as a nation are long-term. And some of it have to do with our consumption pattern. When I was growing up, there were very few flashy cars in our country. Very few. If you do not see Citroen, you will see Mercedes-Benz, Obokun, and the rest of them. The four-wheel drives that we saw were those very old Land Rovers, those days, multi-terrain vehicles. Today, you see all kinds of beautiful cars being shipped into our country. Until the 80s, and I'm saying this, and it's the truth, until the 80s, you did not see vehicles like Prado Jeeps and the rest of them in Nigeria. Until the 80s, even late 80s. Today, once a beautiful car is produced, it's coming to Nigeria, where people have stolen so much money and converted what they've stolen to dollars. Now, the hunger for the dollar in our country has precipitated so much pain. We have to criminalize transactions in dollars in our country. I'm surprised that some of the so-called critics in our country who have lived in other lands are not talking about this. You can't go to South Africa and attempt to spend the dollar. Even if you attempt to spend it, nobody will take it from you, except in the duty-free shops.
That's correct.
And you can't change currency in South Africa without your passport being taken. A record will be made. Today, the South African rand is very strong against the dollar. They are a country that produces, and the currency is stable. In our own country, we are not interested in production anymore. A lot of the companies where we used to produce for export, their warehouses have been turned to churches. Something must give. We can hit our heads against the wall. We can protest from now till tomorrow. If we do not take certain steps, even if we try to mitigate this pain, it will only be for a time. We must commit to production on a big scale. We must commit to exporting our valued goods, because it was like that in the 70s and 80s when our currency was stronger than the dollar. Yeah, but today, what are we producing?
That's right, BK. Because of our time, let me quickly squeeze in 2 comments, and then I'll ask you the final question. Just everything in less than 3 minutes or thereabouts. Nelson Wilfred says, how come everyone is just directing their criticisms towards the president when the governors are just sitting there doing nothing, even with the increase in the federal allocations to the states? Femi Bobade says, BKO, you are back to the position you used to be, that endeared us to you. Well, maybe that endeared us to you, he meant to say, on the side of the people. God bless you. This says, my name is Maxwell Inegbe Noise. Babajide, I want to seize this opportunity to say a big thank you for the great job you are doing. And Keshiro Fatimat, which is the question I wanted to respond to as we go home. We have less than 2 minutes. Federal government should look into cement price, other commodities, and I think it's time for price control in Nigeria. We are the problem of ourselves. How do you respond to this quickly? Do you think federal government should, work on the price control, as suggested by?
We've got to do that. We've got to do that. We've got to do that. I heard that during their meeting, the president and the governor said the price control was not necessary. Well, if they can achieve the aim of keeping rapidly rising prices in check without having to set up price control board, fine. But we can't fold our arms and watch people hike prices like mad people the way they are doing now. We can't keep quiet, because some of the things that their prices are skyrocketing have nothing to do with dollar or even petrol price going up. It's just people responding to what they see others doing. And because it doesn't appear like anybody has a duty of checking them, they are just doing what they like. What we Dangote, for example, and his middlemen, what will they profit from the pains of the Nigerian people? What will they profit? The bulk of the raw material for cement are here in our country. They are here in our country. Gypsum, limestone. So at what point did they now produce cement with some raw material brought into the country that suddenly took the price to that level? They've got to talk to these people. I mean, the sheer madness, some of what we are seeing. We have to tell ourselves the truth. It's sheer madness. Tomato price going sky high. Is that also to be? Is the dollar also to be blamed for that? No. The things that we produce here do not have to be that costly. It's because we have a habit of exploiting fellow Nigerians. During Ramadan, you see people increase the price of sugar. You see them increase the price of millet. Things that Muslims need to break their fast. Oranges, you see them rapidly increasing the price just to exploit innocent Muslims trying to break their fast in obedience to Islamic injunction. So this has to stop. People blaming, talking about another message that you read, people blaming the president alone for this. They are just trying to say, okay, we told you that he cannot do it. Now you can see what has happened. Blaming the president alone will not solve the problem. Governors have a role to play. You are leaving the governors, they are even refusing to pay minimum wage of ordinary 30,000 naira. Governors who are receiving more than 3 times what they used to receive, they are refusing to pay minimum wage, and you are not challenging them. You take his fare. Because we called out the governor of Ogun State on journalist hangout, you can see what he rolled out in the course of the week. He's going to spend about 5 billion. And we are seeing other lawmakers, federal lawmakers now coming out to say, okay, let us do this for our people. Because they were called out. You sit there, you refuse to talk about your governor. Your governor sits in Abuja doing nothing. And since security in the state is taking no steps to address it.
That's right.
Is Wike not a governor in another way? Look at the way Wike has responded to insecurity in Abuja. He brought out money that if you can catch 2 notorious kidnappers, you get paid. They moved in, they got them. That's how to be an action governor.
That's right. That's right, BKO. Because of our time,
you see, I've said before that siding with our people is something that I will continue to do. That is the job that God gave me. People saying, oh, JIDE does not support our people anymore. JIDE is APC. It's absolute nonsense. I can't be APC. It's impossible. I've challenged people. Those who said, oh, that was the way you brought Buhari, you brought Tinubu. I said, show me a video where I told Nigerians to vote for Tinubu. If you show me a video where I told Nigerians that Tinubu is the best for the job, vote for him, I will quit journalism. It's a challenge. All of the people sit on social media making all kinds of accusations against me. They cannot honor that challenge. I've challenged even one person today. I said, oh, you are saying, oh, this was the way I supported Buhari. This was the way I supported. Did I tell you to vote for Tinubu? Of course not. I'm just doing my job as a journalist. If you can produce one video where I said, vote for Tinubu is the best for the job, I will quit journalism. You will never find that video because I'm too professional to say such a thing. But right. You keep accusing me wrongly. That is what is happening.
That's right. That's correct.
I am still the person that I've always been, the lover of our people, somebody who speaks the truth to power. And I'm happy that even some of what I advise them to do, they are beginning to do it.
That's correct, BKO.
It will take some time before we see the gains, but this is the truth.
That's correct. That's correct. BK, Aruga Ogisi says, thanks, Babajide, for speaking truth to power. And Nofio Abubakar Sambo says, the maestro himself, thank you for telling the truth to power and everyone that makes you different. And yeah, and everyone that makes you different from the other journalists in this. Thank you so much, BKO. And that's our show for today's edition of Issues with JIDE. Special thanks to you, Babajide Kolade-Otitoju, for those insightful analyses, as always.
Thank you, Ibrahim. God bless you and your new family. God bless our viewers, those who have chosen to stand by us through thick and thin. May Nigeria get better in our time.
Amen. Amen. And thanks to you to our audience for keeping our company on every edition. You can see the program again anytime by subscribing to our YouTube channel, TVC News Nigeria. Click on the subscribe button to get the latest information. You can also follow us on our social media platforms at TVC News NG. I'm also at Ibrahim TVC News. On behalf of the rest of the team, I'm Ibrahim Shita. See you again next edition. Bye for now.